Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to give a quick introduction to what you're about to see. This is an excerpt from one of the radio shows that I did back when I ran the L&M radio network and hosted the show Open Eyes Radio. And this is from 2016, and I was talking about the information that's in my book, When Good Relationships Go Bad, which you can find on Amazon. You can also find it on my website, originalworlds.com. The video is about 45 minutes long or so, but I go through basically reading a lot of the information that's in that book for those of you guys out there who might be suffering from emotional addictions or even any kind of addictions, really, I think can be explained and helped with the information that you're going to find in this video. So I do hope that you guys enjoy it. If you want to see the full show, you guys can do that. It's in the record, or it's in the archives here on my YouTube channel, or you can go to my website, openeyesnetwork.com. I have all of my radio shows archived there as well. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this and get some information out of it. Again, if you want to read the full book, I do have it really cheap. You guys can go to amazon.com and find it. I'll put the link for it right down below in the description as well. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you guys enjoy the video.
Incoming customer detected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson, and I want to thank you guys for sticking around through that break with us. I'm here tonight with Jolene Robinson. Hello, Jolene.
Hello.
Some really interesting music going on in the background there. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about addictions. Now, I'm going to come at this subject a little bit weirdly, and hopefully you guys will understand where I'm coming from with it. I'm not going to be talking about like the standard addictions that people have, such as like to heroin, or, you know, alcohol, that kind of thing. Although that definitely is there, and there is, in the explanations that I'm going to give as far as addictions goes, that plays a factor in those things as well. It's with any kind of addiction, but I'm going to especially talk about something called emotional addiction. And I think that it actually is, emotional addictions that cause a lot of our other problems with other addictive type of situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's get to it. We have this little thing that's called the mind. Okay, and again, I'm going to go in a weird direction, so bear with me, folks, but we have this little thing that's called the mind. Now, the mind or brain, and this is not the consciousness, this is not your conscious thinking or your spirit or anything like that. You know, I kind of coming at this with the idea that there's the body, there's the brain, and then there's the spirit, right? Mm-hmm. So we have this mind, this meat suit thing that's in control of things as it has evolved. It has evolved to the point that we're at right now with one goal in mind, or one type of purpose, and that is survival. So survival is the primary reason for being for the brain or the mind. Because of that, the mind is actually quite insane. Or at least we would consciously, you know, if we were thinking about things consciously speaking, we would look at how it acts and how it does things and think, wow, that's a really insane way to go, or an insane thing to do. Because it kind of follows the whole pathway of Einstein and his definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result every time. The mind is insane. It is dedicated to survival. So let's say, for example, you have gone through your life to the point that you're at right now in this present moment. You've gone through all of the events of your past. You're in whatever situation you're in right now. You're alive, and that right there is the only thing that your mind cares about. The fact that you are currently alive and currently surviving. Because of this, nothing can change according to your mind, or you're going to die. So whatever situation you're in, whatever troubles you're having, if you're having financial troubles, if you're having stress, if you're having depression, if you're having anxiety attacks every day, if you're having suicidal, things going on, if you're having your job going to crap, if you are in whatever situation you're in, your mind will do everything that it can do to make sure that you stay in that same position of things as you're at right now. Because if anything was to change, it's worried that you are going to die. Its thought is that you're going to die because that's all that it cares about. So far, am I making sense with this?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's designed to do. It's designed with that survival instinct in place to ensure that whatever situation you're in, whatever you're going through, that's what you're going to be. That's what you're going to have from this point forward. And if it doesn't, like for instance, your car's breaking down, you're going through this hell with it. Every day it's breaking down and you're stressed and you're anxious about it and you're worried about it, and all this kind of stuff, right? All of those emotional things are going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things contribute to doing damage to the body. We know this for a fact, that when you are under stress, your brain is actually smaller. It shrinks in size. You can't think as clearly. You're actually doing damage to your body through those stresses, right?
Yeah.
But you're alive. So to buy a new car would actually, according to your mind and the way that it works, be a detriment because, oh my God, we're going to die if you buy a new car. Because things are going to change. And when things change, we're risking our survival. It's just the way that it is. It's that subtlety that's there. And unfortunately, that has a very deep subconscious impact on the way that we do everything that we do throughout our days. So if you're in a horrible relationship, you're probably going to stay in that horrible relationship because if you get out of that horrible relationship, you're going to die, according to the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So any questions so far?
Oh, no.
I know you've heard this before, but
yes. So no questions.
I mean, change is how we grow, but according to the mind,
Change is bad.
change is bad. And that's why changing things is so difficult for people to do, is because you're also, you're not just fighting against whatever it is that you're addicted to, but you're also fighting against your very being telling you, no, you can't change, because if you change, everything's going to die. We're going to die. We're not going to survive this. It's a subconscious action that's taking place. That's why change is so difficult for people to do. But again, change is how we grow. It's how we go from one portion of our lives into the next. We could continue on with our lives as it stands. But what would be the point of life then?
Yeah.
We'd never learn anything new. We'd never experience anything new, and life would be stagnant and boring. Because of that boredom, we find ourselves dissatisfied with things that would have been perfectly acceptable. So let's take, for example, a relationship that you're in. Let's say, for example, you're a man that has a girlfriend. Everything in the relationship is great, but you find yourself getting bored with the way that things are. But you fear changing things and breaking up with the person or whatever. Life starts to get stagnant, and you find yourself resenting the person and the things that they do that you previously thought were not just fine, but maybe they were even funny or cute. The problem is, in a situation like that, as with everything, is that the mind is, when it comes down to it, insane. Again, it's evolved to do nothing more than to make sure that you stay alive. And by staying alive, it means that if you're in a bad relationship or a bad situation, that emotional chemistry that's running through your body and through your brain is no different than the same chemicals that were running through our brain when we were running on the Serengeti trying to avoid the lion. It knows no different, and it does what it can do to survive. But it's the same emotional content. There's no difference, emotionally speaking, between the two situations. It knows that if you were to enact a change in your present circumstances, you're going to die. So it knows this, and because of this, it will do whatever it can to prevent your subconscious, which knows better, from having enough influence on you to make you want to change things around. So, again, you want to get a new car? No, you're going to die. Want to try to straighten things out in your relationship with your husband? No, you're going to die if you do. That's how the mind works. It's what it was designed to do. So, what does this have to do with the emotional addictions? Well, it has to do with us remaining in place, suffering through whatever it is that we're suffering through. And we kind of go back all the time into our past. So, trying to think of how to put this in a way that people are going to get it. Okay, so let's say, for instance, you are a younger woman, teenager, mid-teens or whatever, and you get into like your first big relationship, right?
Okay.
You fall in love, you have that first crush, it's all great, everything is wonderful, but then something ends up happening in the relationship and it falls apart. Okay. Well, what that does is it sets a pattern up into you, because we as human beings, we tend to be the products of different patterns that we form throughout the years in our lives, through our experiences. And what we end up doing is we keep falling into those same experiences over and over. So again, let's say that you're a teenage girl, or were a teenage girl who had a relationship that ended up going badly. That sort of sets the pattern up for the rest of your life, for the relationships that you're going to find yourself getting into over and over, unless you do something to change it. But again, the mind, being insane, thinks that that's the right way to go, because you survived it. You're alive. You came through it. So obviously that's the kind of relationship that is necessary in your life to have.
Okay. Never mind.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, well, someone in the chat room said no video, so I was trying to...
Oh, okay. Seems to be working on our end. I'm not sure.
Okay. Are they seeing us?
Oh, I see. No, that's the problem. Okay. See, I had the stupid commercial break going. I switched it over, but for some reason it didn't actually click over onto the video of us. Sorry, guys.
I was trying to look, and then it showed up black, and then it was loading again. I was
yeah.
like, oh, well, maybe.
Sorry, guys. I apologize. You guys got to let me know right away if that kind of thing goes on. I get stupid sometimes. It's because of my vision. I can't really see it that well, and I don't notice it immediately. So, but anyway, so as we go through life, experiencing relationships and doing our daily things, we form these patterns that can and do shape the future for us. So let's say another example, someone that is in an abusive household is shaped by that abuse, by that trauma. The same can apply to relationships, again, such as, a girl that broke your heart in a really devastating kind of a way. That sets up a pattern or a trait that you're going to follow, basically. Religious or spiritual experiences work in the same kind of way. We can experience an endorphin release due to religious ecstasy in a moment of forgiveness or deep prayer or meditation or something. And it's such an emotionally significant event that we will do whatever we can do to seek that out again. Our relationships, especially in our formative years, cause us to adhere to different patterns that are going to be formed in that time period. So, what does this have to do with emotional addiction? Well, we find ourselves repeating patterns. We'll put ourselves into situations that are essentially identical to the ones that we had been in before. Again, because we have this tendency to have this insane mind, and we look back on those past relationships and we see that they worked because we survived. We're still alive. It must be what it's all about. So when we go and, repeat these situations, again, that are essentially identical to the ones before, we are subconsciously seeking to fill an emotional need for that repeating pattern to be there. We'll look for people in situations that will allow us to go through the same process that we've been through before. So, for example, we'll find a person, we'll get together, we'll experience all of the good feelings that come from it, then we'll find a reason to start doubting, which leads to a wedge being placed between us, and then go through that emotional torment of it all. Then you feel the guilt. Then we want to have a break in the relationship, which leads to all the horrible things that come afterwards. And it always follows that same basic pattern over and over and over in every relationship that we'd get into. So just as an example, that could be the way that it goes. Because sometime in the past, maybe our first relationship or maybe our first really big, impactful relationship had that pattern to it. Well, then every relationship from that point forward goes in that same kind of pattern. Follows the same basic pattern over and over. And, heck, they might even look similar or very much alike to that person that we were together with before. Same body type, same facial features, that type of thing. Through it all, we enact the same actions and entangle ourselves with the same emotional highs and lows that we had become addicted to in that relationship before. So does all that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't end there, though. The people that we find ourselves with, that we're fulfilling our patterns with, also have their own patterns. See, here's the thing. We are all intimately interconnected together always. Everybody. Our minds commune in ways that science really hasn't fully explained yet and may never be able to. The subconscious minds of each of us kind of cahoot together to make the situation that we're in fit the patterns that we're looking for. So, for example, let's say that you're a girl that's together with a guy. You're addicted to the feelings that happen to you after you have been cheated on. You start accusing the man of cheating on you, although there is no evidence that anything like that has happened. You start looking for that cheater in everything that he does. After being accused of it over and over, he finally does cheat just by saying, hell with it. If I'm going to be getting the flack for it, I may as well have the fun for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after being accused over and over, he goes through and does the cheating. And then you go through the turmoil and the emotional results of things after it. The situation has now come to the point where your addiction has been fed. You break up with that one, and maybe in a couple of months, you move on to the next person in line where the same pattern ends up occurring. And the problem is that, again, the guy that's in that situation may have gone through the same kind of pattern in relationship before with other people, and he's fulfilling that emotional addiction in himself as well. So our subconsciouses, they cahooted together to get together with these people, over and over and over again. It's the same flavor. It's the same taint of relationship. Everything is sort of equal. And it might get to the point where it even escalates, but the emotional content is still there. Does all that make sense?
Yes.
So any questions so far?
No, not really.
So now I'm not saying that these addictions are always going to be to bad things. They can be to good things too. So for example, you can be addicted to love, to family, to friends. You can seek out new people that you're going to experience these things with. There's some people that are out there that just seem like they have hundreds of friends, and they're close with all of them. They may be a person that has gone through an emotional addiction experience of, being addicted to getting new friends and becoming close with them. That pattern of
addicted to rescuing animals.
Yes, that's another one. That would be another one. Crazy cat ladies, for instance, they might be having that kind of an emotional addiction because the cats are fulfilling an emotional need that's there. Same type of experience, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily saying being a crazy cat lady is a good thing, but
or a bad thing.
Or a bad thing. It's all dependent on how each other are
done,
treated,
yeah.
Right? So again, you can get addicted to those good things, and those are good to be addicted to. I'm not saying that it's not. Unfortunately,
addicted to helping the needy.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great one to be addicted to. That's a great one to be addicted to. But of course,
if it's to the point that you are starting to become the needy yourself, then that's
what I was just about ready to say. Of course, that can always go into bad things as well, depending on how addicted to it you become.
Hoarder.
Yep.
This isn't a positive one, but hoarding.
Yep. Unfortunately, most patterns do end up fitting into the negative because negative emotional addiction is much easier to feed. It's easier to find negatives than positives in this world that we live in. It's just the way that it is. So with all of this in mind, and hopefully you guys are getting an understanding of what I'm meaning by these emotional addictions. Another addiction that I've talked about not too long ago when I was talking about the whole end of the world coming up again is people that get addicted to, again, that end of the world scenario kind of a situation and all of the emotional content that goes with it. So they'll see that somebody has put out information about, there's an asteroid and it's going to kill us all and it's going to be in September. Okay. Well, people, they get so frantic, they'll search on it. They'll stay up all night long, drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, wondering, what they're going to do when the world starts to end in September. They, search on the internet, freaking out. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Right. And that is a deep emotional addiction that's going on. That September date then comes around. There's nothing that happens and they go, oh, whew, we're alive.
We made it.
We survived it. We made it. And then they start seeking out the next fix. Just like every heroin addict out there does. Just like every crackhead out there does. Just like every meth, sucker out there does. We all fall into these emotional addictions. Every one of us. I've gone through them myself in my own life. I've broken a lot of my addictions, and I'll go into, how that happens here in a moment. But I've gone through it too. And that's why I started noticing this whole emotional addiction thing, is because I realized that the relationships that I was getting into, they all fell into the same patterns. The women even looked similar to each other. And I was wondering to myself, how did I get involved in this? How did I let this happen? Here I am and my life is devastated over and over. Something needs to give. Something needs to change here. But why is this going on? What is it that I need to change? And that's when I started realizing all of this stuff. This is just stuff that I've basically come to terms with over a number of years and kind of figured out, For those curious, actually, I have written a book about all of this. And if you guys want to check it out, you can. It's available on Amazon. It's called When Good Relationships Go Bad. And hopefully you guys will check it out. It's very cheap. I sell it for like 99 cents on Amazon. You guys can pick it up. Just look it up by my author name, Ira Robinson, or you can look it up by the book title, When Good Relationships Go Bad. I discuss all of this stuff and even more in that book. And, as a way to try to help people out, to try to figure out how to make changes in their lives so that they don't keep falling into these destructive patterns over and over and over again. Because it's not only destructive to yourself, but it's destructive to those that are around you too. You know, when you're in a really horrible relationship and you go through all of the turmoil with it, it's not just you that's experiencing it. If you've got kids, they're experiencing it too. If you've got family, they're experiencing it with you. They're worried and concerned and so on and so forth. And again, you're fulfilling addictions for them too. It just goes on and on, right?
Yeah. And just to let you know, I got a message from our friend in Kokomo, and he said he's okay.
Okay.
They have no power, but they have no damage. They're okay. Nothing's wrong. So the cell power is back on, but they're winging it otherwise.
Okay, good. Good. That's good news. Okay, so what can be done about all of this? That's probably a really good question. How do we change these emotional addictions? How do we get away from them, right?
Yeah.
Well, just like with any addiction, the first step is to do what? Do you know?
Admitting.
That's a big part of it. The first step is that we realize that we want these changes to occur. And to do that, you have to admit that this is something that you're experiencing. The choice is ours as to whether or not we want to be slaves to our addictions. We are here to learn lessons. You know, we know this. We've talked about that before. We are here on this planet to learn lessons. And sometimes those lessons could be how not to be addicted to these things, right?
Yeah.
But if you truly want to break free of it, you need to change how you act and react to relationships. You might need to learn, for instance, that being alone is the best thing for now. It may be that you need to learn to be self-sufficient, that you don't need to be with somebody, but that you want to be. And there's a big difference. Big difference between the two. You'd admit that, right?
Yeah.
And if it's a family member that you're having this relationship issue with, you can walk away from family. It is possible to do that. And sometimes it is necessary to do that. I've done that myself. You have too.
We all have.
Basically, it comes down to breaking the mold of the pattern that you're kind of fitting yourself into. Think about it this way. If you're addicted to like a hurt relationship, I can hear you tapping, by the way.
I'm sorry.
The person that hurt you in the past has control over everything that you do. Do you really want that? I mean, do you really want that person to have the satisfaction of knowing that everything that you do is tainted by the hatred, the anger, the hurt, the sorrow, whatever it is that person made you feel? Stop letting them rule over you. That's a big, a big way or a big impetus to be able to change things. Another thing is forgiveness. And forgiveness has the ability to help disarm situations. So forgiveness, this is a big one for me. And I love talking about this subject because it is a big, important thing. Forgiveness is never about the other person. Forgiveness is about yourself. And it may sound selfish, but it is true. Forgiveness is for yourself. The essence of forgiveness is change. And again, how do you break free of these patterns? You know the answer, right?
Go ahead.
To change. And what does the mind not want to do? Change, right? So how do you get the mind to change? Well, you do what has the essence of change, and that is forgiveness. It's what brings about new things, whether it's for yourself or for the other person or party that's involved. But something is going to change in the dynamic between you when you practice forgiveness. So forgiveness is at its heart as anti-mind as you can get. Forgiveness, again, is not about the other person. It's never about them. It's about you, and it's for you. What someone else thinks or does to you is their business. It's not yours. But how you react to it is yours. In other words, if I thought that you were a jerk, that's my business, not yours. But if I tell you that you're a jerk, that's on me, not you. But how you react to my calling you a jerk and thinking of you as a jerk is, you see? Mm-hmm. Forgiveness is like our spiritual steam release valve. It's about releasing the anger. It's about releasing the hate, the hurt, what that other person did or made us feel. That's what it's about. It's so that you can get away from it and cleanse it from our auras, so to speak, and not have that corrupting force on us anymore. Again, the mind being insane and wanting us not to change anything at all, or we're going to die right now, has a hard time dealing with actual true forgiveness. Most people, when they think of forgiveness, they're doing nothing more than doing it lip service. They'll say, well, yeah, I forgive you. But they really mean, I'm going to say this so that the situation will ease up, but I'm never going to forget this. There's a difference between the two. True forgiveness is absolute. You let it all go. Every bit of it. And that doesn't mean forgetting it and letting them stomp on you again, but it does mean letting go of the emotional attachment that you have to that action or act. So the best way to start doing forgiveness actually is to say thank you. I mean, seriously. Thank the person for what they did because they taught you something. Even if that thing is that you're never going to allow somebody to do what they did to you again, it's still something that you learned. It's still something that you didn't know before that. So you can say thank you for it. Again, that doesn't mean that you're going to allow them to stomp on you again or to hurt you again. But you can learn from the learning experience and be grateful for that learning. That's how to get out of the negative emotions of it and into something a little bit more with a positive spin, or at least more balanced than it was. But you don't have to live in that negative. You don't have to be there present in that negative forever. And you don't have to thank them out loud. You know, you can.
That would make things quite awkward if you're thanking them to their face.
Well, you know, there are times where it's actually really necessary. And if you do it, it's going to change the dynamic between the two of you, because they're going to sit there and wonder, what the hell just happened? It's sometimes interesting to do it that way. But you don't have to thank them out loud. You know, you don't have to go up to them and say, you know, hey, thanks for the abuse. You know, I appreciate it.
Thanks for knocking me out cold.
Thanks for hitting me with a frying pan upside the head and knocking me flat out unconscious. You know, I had to do that. You know, you don't have to thank them out loud. You can just do it in your heart, because, again, that forgiveness is about you, not them. You know, you can just let it go inside of yourself. But you want to really mean it. You know, if you say it aloud to them, it is very cathartic. But again, you know, it's about you and not them. You have to do what you can do to move past the emotional traumas and scars that you carry, so that you can actually not be impacted by them at every turn. Because we can hold on to and be addicted to those emotions that surrounded the experiences that we went through. And because of it, again, we're going to put ourselves into the same situation over and over again because it's addictive. Because it's what we crave. It's what we need. It's the pattern that we've created for ourselves. If you've been hurt in the past, you know how much it can affect every single relationship that you have in the future. And the reason why it has such a foothold on you is because you've never stepped out of that insane mind and given the forgiveness for what happened to you. You don't have to live subjected to that insane mind. You can break free of it, and you can start living your life the way that you would really like to live it. You can be free of those emotional traumas and the bonds that you carry to that other person. I mean, again, like I said earlier, think about that. The person that hurt you has control over every aspect of your life. Everything that you do is looked at through the lens, through the filter of the experience that they put you through. And if they are still having an impact on you, emotionally speaking, then you're still being just as traumatized with every experience that you go through. Do you really want that in your life? I know I certainly didn't. That's why I had to figure out how to solve this problem. I mean, if the person that hurt me knew that they had such a major impact on me for years afterwards, they would have taken a sick pride in it. They absolutely would have. But you see, we're different than just the insane mind. We are something else entirely. And I'd like to, I guess, leave people with this thought because we're starting to run a little short on time here. I want to leave people with this thought of who and what we really are. It's a scientific fact that we are, all of us, made of stardust. The universe has gone through billions of years of changes, of rising and falling, of stars being born and dying in massive and incredibly powerful bursts of energy. It has seen the formation of galaxies, and it has watched as they have crashed into each other with incredible echoes reaching out over the eons to reach this point in time, right here and right now. It is everything from the moment that the universe began until right here and right now, been to see this moment with you sitting there listening to these words. It has been a culmination to bring about the incredible stardust creature, thinking, passionate, and free-willed person that you are. Will you allow all of that to go to waste by being driven by the influences of your past? Or are you going to take control of your life, your passions, your heart, to seek out the things that are without your permission having an influence on you right now? Are you going to allow these destructive patterns and templates to control your destiny? Or are you going to break free of those chains and become the person that you have always been destined to be? Are you going to allow all of your relationships to fall to pieces simply because you had a lack of understanding of why they always seemed to go that way and never knew how much of an impact your past has had on your present? With that, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here to get your thoughts out, Jolene. What do you think about all of the things that I had to say here?
Very well put. Better than I could have done. Yeah, no, just, you put it well. Forgiveness is about yourself, not the other person. Because as you said, what they say about you, what they do to you is on them. It's how you take it. It's like, you could look at, say someone hits you. if an infant hits you and an adult hits you, you take it two different ways, but you could react the same way to both, or you could understand that perhaps they're the same reasoning that the infant hit you is maybe similar to the adult. Maybe they were not in control of their actions. Maybe they were unaware. Or maybe there's some other underlying thing. Either way, you need to learn to forgive and just move on.
And maybe emotionally speaking, they were just as much of an infant as that 6 or 8 month old is.
Exactly.
They don't have any understanding of the effects that they're having on another person. It's a really good way to put it. I like that, Jolene. I'm going to have to use that in the future.
Yeah.
Steals.
You may take.
I steals it. So,
I'm offended.
you know, it's interesting to me to see that people throughout the years have gone through so many different emotionally impactful experiences and not really realized the how and the why they have occurred, or understood how to get past or through it. And hopefully with the stuff that we've talked about tonight, I have at least helped somebody out there go through their life looking at things through a different lens, looking at things through a different frame of mind, so to speak, to get out of that insane mind and into something that is much more of a consciously, spiritually minded type of being that is truly taking part and parcel of the power that they have as a creature built out of stardust, as opposed to thinking that they are something more closely akin to the sludge that our ancestors came out of. That's what I want people to get to. That's what I want people to understand that they really, really are. We are all energy. We are all intimately interconnected together, subsumed into this consciousness, this experiment, this mind thought of God, I guess you could say. And we can act like we're that, or we can act like we're the monkeys that evolution says that we come from. We have a choice of which direction we want to go. And personally, I like the higher idea a little bit better. Although I think for you, if I had mentioned cat, you might have a second consideration.
Yes.
So any final thoughts with all of this, Jolene? We've got I don't know, maybe about 2 minutes that are left here.
No, not really. I don't really have anything to say.
Okay. That's okay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's show. Again, like I said, I wanted to bring something that would be a little bit different for people to think about, a little bit of a different train of thought perhaps to work with. And I do hope that I helped somebody out. If you guys have any questions, you guys can send me an email. It's to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. I'd be grateful and happy to answer any kind of questions regarding this topic that you would have. Again, I would invite people to check out the book that I wrote. I went into a lot greater detail. I mean, it's a lengthy book, but I went into some really big detail on, everything that we talked about tonight and more, up to and including the Ooga Booga and the Power of One. Mm-hmm. And I think that you guys would get a big kick and an interesting information out of that section of things alone. But again, you guys can find it on Amazon.com. It was actually a #1 bestseller when it came out, so I'm pretty proud of that. But anyways, when good relationships go bad, it's by Ira Robinson, and I would invite you guys to check it out, and hopefully you guys will. It's cheap. I made it cheap for you guys because I want to help people out. That's really what it comes down to. So anyways, if you guys want to go to the archive for more stories from Ira Robinson, go to his official website, originalworlds.com. At that website, you'll find free stories, free chapters from his books, writing information for those up-and-coming authors, and much, much more. That's originalworlds.com. Thank you for listening.